Good morning, hope you slept well. So my name is Klaus. I'm founder of an organisation called Plant-Based News, and for over 10 years I've been at the epicenter of this conversation. I've spoken to researchers from all over the world, I've gone through huge volumes of data, I've helped contribute to many documentaries with the aim of helping the environment, and I'm here to say that changing our food holds the most promise. Because even if we eliminate fossil fuels immediately, even if every drop of oil, every cubic meter of gas, and every metric ton of coal stayed in the ground from today, we'd still utterly fail to meet climate change targets unless we change our food. So my question is simple. Why aren't we talking about food? Food production globally is responsible for more than a third of global greenhouse gas emissions. So surely a third of climate change meetings and a third of climate change media coverage at least should be devoted to food. Instead, we hear numerous other solutions, don't we? Popular environmental solutions that don't address the elephant in the room. In this speech, I'm going to go through 10 of these. I'm hoping that once I've gone through these 10 popular environmental solutions, you'll realize that food system change is not only glaringly left out of the conversation, but also holds the most promise if we want to tackle the climate and nature crisis. So let's get into it. And number one, we are told, aren't we, to reduce the amount of carbon, specifically carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. This is what we hear all of the time, right? Even at COP28, the Global Climate Change Conference, CO2 is the environmental buzzword swirling around the event. But the problem is we've got a CO2 tunnel vision, which distracts from an even more important greenhouse gas, methane, which, as we know, is animal agriculture's signature greenhouse gas, which is 80 times more potent than CO2. So why is methane not front and center of the debate? The next environmental solution, we need to revolutionize the transportation industry so that it doesn't rely on combustion engines. But did you know that our consumption of animal products contributes more to global warming? Animal agriculture contributes more to global warming than all forms of transportation combined. But why are we not told about this? Why are we not told that when we point the finger at planes, cars, trucks and boats for their environmental impact, three fingers point back at us? One for breakfast, lunch and dinner, because our consumption of animal products has a huge environmental impact, an impact that rivals, if not exceeds, the impact of fossil fuels. Next up, population control. You're probably thinking, is this really a popular environmental solution? And that's what I thought until earlier in the year when I started interviewing people in the street about environmental issues. In fact, I posted a video on Instagram and TikTok of me interviewing a New Yorker who claimed, if I really cared about the environment, if I really cared about saving the planet, the only meaningful way to do this would be to kill myself. I thought he was joking, but I posted the clip thinking everyone would make fun of him. But the opposite happened. The video went viral, and looking at the over 20,000 comments, it was clear that actually the vast majority of people agreed with him. Which begs the question, why do people think there's a human population crisis? What do you think is more of an impact on the environment? 8 billion humans or 80 billion farmed animals? How is it that we're able to provide adequate nutrition for 80 billion farmed animals every single year when we're not even able to provide adequate nutrition for 800 million humans who are tragically undernourished? So let's move on to the next environmental solution. We are told to recycle or avoid plastic, right? But did you know that 77 to 86% of plastic found in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is a huge collection of plastic in the North Pacific, is from fishing? Why are we not told about this? And when we are, we're told to use paper straws to save the fish, instead of stopping eating fish to save the fish. Now, people respond to this by advocating for sustainable fishing. But how are we meant to do this? We've lost 90% of large fish in the ocean. So how are we meant to fish sustainably? If we cut down 90% of the rainforest, the logical solution wouldn't be to cut down the last 10% more sustainably. We'd leave the forest alone. So when it comes to the ocean, why don't we just leave it alone? Next environmental solution that we hear, next popular environmental solution that we hear, conserve water. We hear about hosepipe bans, don't we? And the impending doom of droughts. But why are we not told that the leading cause of water use is livestock farming? To put it in perspective, it takes more than 600 litres of water to produce just 1 litre of cow's milk. 600 litres of water to produce just 1 litre of cow's milk, which incidentally is double the amount of water required to produce the same amount of almond milk. So why are environmentalists more concerned, more triggered by Californian almonds compared to dairy? It's the same with water pollution. We hear alarming reports about our rivers being too polluted to swim in, don't we? And this is a big one for me because I love open water swimming. But why are we not told that the leading cause of water pollution is manure and the runoff from livestock farming? Now, people respond to this by saying, okay, Klaus, we understand animal agriculture is bad. We get it. We understand methane. I understand all the issues you're talking about. But what about local meat? What about local dairy? This is actually presented as a popular environmental solution. And I always think, do they not realize that even if the animal was raised and slaughtered locally, the feed often comes from deforested land in places like South America? And even if a food item is truly local, the vast majority of its environmental impact comes from the production phase, not the transportation phase. Meaning the problem is what we eat, not where it's transported from. The problem is what we eat, not whether it's local or not. The problem is the animal products. Even grass-fed, free-range or regenerative meat. Why are we presented with these extensive livestock farming methods as an environmental solution, when we know that grazing takes up so much of the Earth's habitable land, but only provides 1% of protein? If we instead repurpose this land, we could rewild more areas, increase biodiversity, and reverse the extinction crisis. But have you ever gone on the website of a major conservation charity and seen appealing invitations to pay to adopt an endangered species? Save a koala bear, be a hero for an orangutan, protect a rhino. Charities like WWF, the Wildlife Trust and the RSPB take your money, but never tell you or never do anything about the number one reason why these species are facing extinction in the first place: the vast land use of animal agriculture. To put it in perspective, right, meat and dairy require a staggering 83% of farmland, despite producing just 18% of calories. Can you imagine how many species we could save if we shifted away from this system? If we brought back the wetlands, the peatlands, the savannas, the grasslands, and the rainforests? We could stop the extinction crisis in its tracks. More than that, we could pull down a huge amount of carbon and buy us time as we shift away from fossil fuels. It would mean we wouldn't have to put up with unambitious slogans such as let's hit net zero by 2050, because we could go one step further. We could very quickly become carbon negative. This is what's possible if we shift away from animal agriculture. Instead, we hit other environmental solutions, don't we, that aren't as politically controversial, such as to reduce food waste. Everyone agrees with this, right? Everyone agrees that wasting food is unacceptable. But I would like to say, nothing is more wasteful than throwing away meat, dairy, eggs, or fish, because when we do this, we're throwing away all of the resources that go into producing these products in the first place. Imagine if we used those resources. Imagine if we used the land. Imagine if we used the water. Imagine if we used the energy, time, and money to grow food directly for humans. Researchers have estimated we could feed an extra 3 to 4 billion people. What I'm saying is we should stop trying to be top of the food chain. After all, what we do to animals right now in 2023 when we selectively breed them, when we exploit their reproductive organs, when we take away their babies shortly after birth so we can take their milk, and when we kill them in windowless slaughterhouses has nothing to do with a food chain. So we have a choice to stop filtering our nutrients through an animal. The largest dietetic associations in the world very clearly state that a plant-based diet is nutritionally adequate and healthy for all stages of life. Because we need protein, right? But not meat. Calcium, not dairy. Omegas, not fish. Let me tell you something. It's healthier to save the planet than it is to destroy it. Last but not least, the final popular environmental solution that we hear is to educate people. And I agree, we should be educating people. But what are we educating them about? Are we really giving them the full picture? How are we in this situation where increasing numbers of people across society are terrified about the environment, yet simultaneously completely blind to the industry that causes the majority of the environmental damage in the first place? How many more extreme weather patterns do we need to see before people realize this? How many more rising sea levels, flooding of cities and islands, droughts, water scarcities, food shortages, and hundreds of millions more climate refugees and species extinctions will we need to see before people realize this? That there's one industry at the center of all of these environmental ills. But where there's a common problem, there is a common solution. Can you imagine the positive impact if schools, universities and environmental conferences made plant-based the default? Can you imagine the positive impact if politicians stopped propping up the meat, dairy, egg and fish industries? These industries would go bust. They would be forced to adapt. Take the UK, for example, where I'm from. Did you know that a staggering 90% of grazing livestock farmers' profit is subsidised by a government? 90%. In fact, in Wales, without these subsidies, the average upland sheep farmer would earn a negative income of £16,600 per year. And so by encouraging our politicians to repurpose these subsidies, by in effect educating our politicians, this could be one of the most effective environmental solutions. But policy change is hard, isn't it? Things take time to enact, so we need to look inward, we need to lead by example. Going plant-based is the single biggest thing we can do as individuals for the environment. That's according to the University of Oxford in the largest study of its kind. The same university accurately states that a plant-based diet is 30% cheaper. And if the animal agriculture industry claims this is untrue, I would like to say nothing is more expensive than the subsidies they require to stay in business. And nothing is more expensive than the health and environmental cleanup costs their industry externalizes. Their techno fixes in the form of methane masks don't provide a meaningful solution. Their propaganda around regenerative grazing doesn't save the day. We need to support farmers in a just and equitable transition to a more sustainable food system. We need to sweep away the dogma, because despite what you may hear in the media, animal farming has more environmental impact than avocados. Chicken requires more soy than tofu, and dairy requires more water than almond milk. As I said, we need to support farmers in an equitable transition to a better future for everyone. This is the defining truth of our age. The future is within our grasp. It's literally in our hands every time we eat. We can vote for the kind of world we want to live in every single day. We're not going to fix the climate and nature crisis unless we do this. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time. Thank you.